So, on tonight's video, we will be going over Spider Man issue number 1 from the 1990s run. It was written and drawn by Todd McFarlane. Uh, this was a very, very big seller for Marvel in the 90s. Uh, at least this issue was. I feel like some of the stories, maybe later, was good and bad, but that's with any ongoing title. But let's get started on issue number 1. So this is a storyline called Torment, part 1 of 5. So we start off with Spider-Man going through the city, just kind of enjoying being a hero, his abilities. I mean, it's just him having a good day. He sees a mugging going on, so he goes to go down there and stop the mugging. And this has a lot of a little darker tone to it. Todd McFarlane does a lot of kind of darker tone stuff. Like most Spider-Man comics, you would just have the mugger just mugging for money or whatever. But this, I mean, it talks about how, he hit the woman. And you don't see a lot of that in Spider-Man comics. Usually they run a very, very thin borderline on not making it kiddie, but not going too far into the dark tone of it. And Todd kind of pushes it a little dark. So anyway, Spider-Man steps in, uh, takes the guy out pretty quick. The guy tries to shoot him. He runs out of ammo. Spider-Man crushes the gun, webs him up, and kind of leaves him. We go to this somewhere else in New York. There is something kind of dark going on. There's obviously, it looks like a woman of some kind in the background, and it leads into the lizard coming up out of the river. So obviously, whoever this is, they have the ability to summon the lizard. So we go back to Peter Parker, who is at his apartment now with Mary Jane, and he's just going over, his day. He's kind of having a little ego trip right now, talking about how he doesn't understand how these regular muggers think they stand a chance against him when he's fought people like Thanos and Doctor Doom. And Mary Jane just kind of sits there and just lets him prattle on. And finally, she starts to interrupt him. And then we get back to the lizard, who he's getting ready to eat a rat, but then he sees people breaking into this store, and he decides he'd rather have the humans. We go back to Peter and Mary Jane, and Mary Jane is starting to kind of talk him down a little. We go back to the lizard, who is in full attack mode. He just shreds these people like they're meat, because that's all they are to him. I mean, Todd McFarlane is he draws really well the action and it's brutal when it needs to be brutal. I mean, I feel like he even takes, the action scenes and makes them a little brutal. So, and you'll see what I'm saying here, because he goes through these guys. This guy guns down the lizard. I mean, we go back to the whoever this is, it looks like she's performing a ritual, like a blood ritual, and the lizard gets reborn. And I mean, as you can see, he's a little bloodier. There's a lot more blood usage than what we're used to with Spider-Man. And Todd was not scared to push the envelope a little, uh, in a good way and in a bad way. Like I like what Todd McFarlane set into motion. You know, he was one of the masterminds behind Venom. Uh, and nobody can discredit what he's done with Spawn. You know, I can't think of many superheroes that came in the 90s and withstood the test of time to be as still as cult popular as they are. I mean, there for a long while, Spawn and I dare say Savage Dragon pretty much carried Image for a while, especially Spawn. Like Savage Dragon become a big thing, but Spawn was what put and kept Image going. But Todd's always had a little more of a mature writing to him with the drawing he was doing, because he was the regular artist on Amazing Spider-Man a little while prior to this or immediately before this. And he was always drawing his women over sexualized, but you know, it is what it is in the comic book industry. That's what we pay for, really. So I mean, it is what it is. uh you know, for me growing up in my teens, you know, this was great material. uh it was especially this issue. I remember reading this one. This was it took the lizard from being something kind of silly to, you know, a big threat. And you'll see what I mean as the storyline progresses in these other chapters. But we get to Peter, who is trying to get up and out. He's got somewhere he's got to be. He tells Mary Jane he'll be back in time for supper, hopefully, and to save him the paper. And of course, in the paper, the headlines are 3 killings, men slashed to death, and it's got an abbreviated name of Connor on the wall. But of course, he's not aware of that at the moment. So he's out swinging around. I can't remember where he's got to go. He's kind of poking fun about, you know, all these superheroes wearing capes, and he's able to do all these flips in the air and so forth. I mean, he's having a good time. And everyone who's a Spider-Man fan knows when Spider-Man's having a good time, something bad's right around the corner. You know, unless you're talking about modern Spider-Man where, oh, hey, this stuff right here. I mean, this isn't my favorite work of Spider-Man. No offense to Todd McFarlane. Like, I like what the man does, but I feel like moving to Spawn was the best thing that he could have done, because he was able to do what he wanted to do. He was able to create this ultra gritty and dark character that worked. I just don't think it works for Spider-Man. Spider-Man is more of a lighthearted. He should have to deal with the heavy things, but he should be more, you know, lighthearted. But even this, I would take this over what they got going in the new Amazing Spider-Man stuff now. I mean, Spider-Man has been so off track for years now. X-Men's been off track for years. I mean, these stories from the 80s and 90s and 70s, I mean, they blow the current stuff out of the water. So we got this guy who's going to work early in the morning. He's cutting through this alley because, it saves him a bunch of time. He's never had no trouble. But of course, today the lizard's waiting. So the lizard's just attacking everybody. He's just a mindless beast right now. And you have the two comparisons of, you've got Spider-Man, who's above the city, all carefree, and you've got the lizard down below in the alleys and the grime and the dirt, who he's looking for Spider-Man. Spider-Man is his prey he's looking for. So Todd was always good about drawing scenes. Like, I love how they kind of put these two on opposite spectrums of each other. He's high above the city. He's down in the grimy alleys, the worst parts of the streets. Todd McFarlane is a great writer, a great artist, and he did some amazing stuff, literally, on Spider-Man. But like I said, I do feel like his writing, it needed something. It needed an outlet that could go dark. And Marvel was never going to let Spider-Man get as dark as Todd would have wanted to put him, I'm sure. So it was good that he moved on. That's what he needed to do. But so that's the end of this issue. So now we will reflect on it some. So the art, as always, Todd McFarlane, I mean, he's not my absolute favorite artist, but he's definitely far, far from the bottom. I mean, his art is definitely up there for me. I really do like it. The art is pretty good in here. I mean, I give the art, I give it a 7.5. I mean, it's pretty good. I mean, I really like the way he reimagines the lizard. The lizard looks threatening. He doesn't look, he looks terrifying. If you run into that in a dark alley, you're going to pee yourself. You know what I mean? Like, this is how the lizard should look. So I give the art a 7.5. The story, I liked it for a chapter 1. I feel like there wasn't a lot of action, but in this issue, it wasn't about the action. It was about the setup that's coming. So, and that's another thing with Todd, he's one of those that you'll get 3 or 4 issues where nothing really happens, where it's just setting things up, and then you'll have an issue come where it's just everything pays off in that issue. Like, there's nothing wrong with that type of writing. I believe there's a place for that type of writing. I do enjoy that type of writing when it's done right. I mean, I feel like Todd does it to this day in Spawn. Spawn will go through half a story where it's just moving story points, and then you'll get to the last issue and it'll just be a knockdown, drag out brawl. And I mean, I can appreciate that. I don't have to have action with every single issue if you set me up a good story that the last payoff is going to be good action. And a lot of times Todd can do that. But that's not the case with this one, because the action does pick up in the next issue, and it pretty much stays consistent through the rest of the 4 parts or whatever. So I give the story for issue 1, I'll give it a 7.52. So overall, I'm giving this a 7.5. And as for the closing, we'll kind of summarize the issue. It was Peter having a good day, but he was unaware that somebody has took control of Kurt Connors, the Lizard, which is one of his best friends, and is causing him to run amok. We don't know who has took control of him. We don't know how they are doing it besides through some kind of rituals. So, yeah, I mean, I feel like it's been a pretty solid issue. So stay tuned and we will go into part 2.